Johnson heads to the pocket. Layup. Johnson, good.
All right, welcome everybody here to another episode of Talkin Sports with me, Chris Powers, as we continue to look at all the sports around the area. Of course, this show's seen 5 times a week, Tuesdays at 11 a.m., Thursdays at 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., Fridays at 9 p.m., and Saturdays at 8:30, and then seen, of course, almost 2 million households in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette metro areas. And great sponsors like TJ Ribs, attorney Tony Clayton. Had a friend of mine, Pat Galloway, who is the general manager of Cumulus, was in a hotel this week watching the show and called me immediately. It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I think it was at 9 o'clock on Thursday. Called me up and loved the show and was watching it and all that stuff. And I said, unbelievable, but great guy. He also runs a new sports ticker in the New Orleans area that's doing with that. I'm getting one of these, getting that old throat scratchy and starting the nostrils. I mean, I don't know if it's spring sinuses or what's going on, but man alive, if I'm clearing my throat a lot today, I apologize. Marty went and got me some good cold Powerade. I'll be drinking that down. All right, lots to talk about. Football is always good to talk about, no question about that. ESPN's Bill Connolly ranks college football teams in their rank of returners and their production and how they did last year, meaning the returning this year. Last year, LSU ranked 84th in this poll. This year, LSU ranks number 38. 62% of their players as a whole, productivity percentages returning. The breakdown of LSU, offense are 41st returners with 65% productivity, and meaning productivity is a different from meaning who's returning, because they have less than 50% of the players returning. This is a whole new different football team. Garrett Nussmeier returns at quarterback, and I think Garrett will have a great season this year. I really do. Watch what I'm telling you. He's going to put up a lot of offensive yardage and passing yardage, a lot of touchdowns. Hopefully those interceptions go down. But I think Garrett Nussmeier will have a good year this year, pretty much. Caden Durham had a good freshman campaign. He'll be back as a sophomore. I think he'll have a better year. But, again, we have to wait and see on that because you never know what happens. Sometimes it's a sophomore slump, as they call it. Because teams start watching game film on you and know your instincts, whether you're going to go to the A gap, B gap, or whatever. What's your instinct when this is clogged down or what have you? I think Caden Durham hopefully will have a big year, but he returns as a starting running back. Chris Hilton Jr. and Aaron Anderson return at the wide receiver spot, and DJ Chester returns at the center spot, and that's it. 5 returning starters at 11 of those of the team. That's less than 50%, and on offensive line, 4 new offensive lines as the starters. That's crazy. DJ Chester, the only one returning. He struggled last year as a freshman at the center spot, but he's back now as a sophomore. But they've got some good players on this team that a lot of, signees that Coach says that some high school signees will probably get to play immediately. He's bragging on some of those. So, again, LSU ranked 41st on offense, with 65% of the productivity returning. On defense, LSU ranks 51st with 59% returning of productivity on there. Jacoby Guillory, defensive line, should be back. He's the only starter at defensive line to be back. And the reason I say he should be back, he had it early on, the Achilles tendon, and that is a hard injury to come back from. So he should be able to come back, and if so, he'll be the only starter of the defensive line that will be back for LSU. Harold Perkins at linebacker, how much was that knee rehab? Is it going to be better? Is he going to be better? Is his mind going to get in? Because starting as a sophomore, he was out of it. Before that injury happened, he was out of it. Now, of course, he threatened to he had talked about transferring out, never filed his paperwork, we were told. But he did. He was going to transfer out, but changed his mind. He's back at LSU, and this is a key year for him. He's got to come back, and he's got to have a big year for him to be a high NFL draft. Right now, he might be 3rd, 4th round. I don't know. Or scouts may be looking at him and saying, okay, we know his productivity. We know what he did as a freshman. So let's go ahead and put him in the 1st round. Let's put him in the 2nd round. I don't know. But Harold Perkins is going to have a big year this year at the linebacker spot. Where will they put him? And word is that Coach Kelly has said, I want you to go back where you feel more comfortable. And whatever position that is. Now, if you don't have, this is me saying this, if he doesn't feel comfortable with going back deep on a deep drop sometimes, and he's going to struggle in the National Football League. Because DeMario Davis says it all the time. As a linebacker, you have to do that sometimes. You have to drop out in coverage. And I'm talking about your 10-yard zone. I'm talking sometimes further than that with a tight end. So hopefully Harold Perkins will get going with that. Whit Weeks was going to be back. Obviously, he had a massive injury to his ankle in the bowl game. But the ankle injury is not as hard to come back from as knee or Achilles tendon. So he'll easily be ready. Might not do much spring. He's proved himself already, but as far as the summer drills, when they start in August, he'll be back for that with no question. Davion Keys also is going to be back at the linebacker spot, and Ashton Stamps at defensive back. Once again, not a lot of players returning. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players there returning. So LSU right now is looking on hold, has 10 returning starters and their whole football team. 5 on offense, 5 on defense. Again, so we'll have to wait and see with that. On this same list that is released by Bill Connolly from ESPN, here's how the SEC team ranks. Texas A&M was the top ranked. They came in at number 6th overall. Vanderbilt was 8th. Oklahoma was 10th. Florida was 18th. Auburn was 22nd. Alabama was 35th. Mississippi State was 37th. LSU 38th overall in the nation. Missouri was 51st. Kentucky at 52nd. Tennessee 58, Arkansas 64, South Carolina 71st, Texas at 103, Georgia 105th, and this one crazy, Jonathan, Ole Miss at 113. Again, with the thing that I'm saying is this, it brings up this point, this going over and turning over a new team every year, year in and year out, I don't think it's going to work. It doesn't work on any, you don't look at it on any team. Remember the Lakers built that big team up and they didn't win anything? With Shaq and Kobe and all the players, Karl Malone, they didn't win anything because it takes time for a player to get acclimated to the offense or defense or coaches' philosophies or in football, the quarterback timing. What is a quarterback going to do if he's flushed out of the pocket? Where's he going to roll to? What side? Where's he going to, what do you want you to do? Everything into that, it takes time to build that. And so far, it seems that build that for 1 year only with the transfer portal, like every LSU fan was yelling at. Why are we ain't good in the transfer portal? Like Ole Miss was winning championships. Ole Miss don't win nothing. But yet they were all, why can't we be Ole Miss? Well, now LSU is. They're the number 1 team with transfer portals. And we're not even done. They got another transfer portal coming up later on this year after spring practice. But all in all, Ole Miss at 113. They're expected to have a very good team this year with a lot of transfer portals. How good will they do? But LSU, again, at 38th overall, and in the SEC, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th. They come in at 8th in the SEC halfway through. So, Jonathan, what do you think about this list? LSU returning players, only 5 on offense and 5 on defense early on.
I think LSU did a pretty good job in this transfer portal to fill those needs. Of course, you lose Mason Taylor. Trey Green was a true freshman last year. He tried a little bit of basketball, but now he's back concentrating on academics and football. Add some good pieces at wide receiver. Of course, you had, like you mentioned, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson returning. Xavier Thomas also returned. But then you add a Nick Anderson and a Barry and Brown, guys that are really experienced in the SEC, playmakers, dynamic on the outside. The offensive line, I think, is the biggest concern for LSU. Of course, they did have guys like Tyree Adams, Bo Bordelon, Paul Mabinga, guys that did get some snaps last season, especially towards the end when you knew the bookends were going to the NFL in that bowl game. Offense is going to be fine. A big piece returning is obviously Garrett Nussmeier. I agree he's going to have a huge season. You mentioned Ole Miss. They lose Jackson Dart, but they're going to have a good left-handed quarterback this year. Guy played high school baseball and football, obviously. But he's a pitcher from the left side. Throws a very pretty ball, and he's mobile with his feet. There'll be talk about Ole Miss again. And in the SEC, you don't rebuild ever. You just reload. And LSU, of course, had to use a transfer portal more than Coach Brian Kelly, I think, wanted to. He wanted to use the high school to, really build this program. And I thought he did a good job of that in the first 2 years, but just didn't win enough games last season. So something had to change, and I think they did a good job going to spend that money, show your support for LSU with the NIL deals, and got some good players in the building, Chris. And I think it's playoffs or bust this season, obviously, for LSU, and I think they have the talent and the structure to absolutely do that.
I don't think that Kelly would get fired, But I do think that if Kelly has another season like he did last year, I got a feeling Kelly retires. I really do, because this is beginning to be a young man's, coaching job in college football now. And they started a place where Dabo Swinney could be in that same boat, and that's at Clemson when they start the season on August the 30th. Ought to be a good game with that one. I think LSU could take that one on the road in the in the pretend Death Valley. We all know that's not the real Death Valley. But anyway, I do think that LSU could win that game. But we've said that in the last 3 seasons that they could win those games, and they did not. They opened up at home against Louisiana Tech, their first home game. Then they play Florida at Tiger Stadium. I think Florida will be an improved football team this year. Then they host Southeastern, so it's 3 home games in a row before they get back on the road early on against the Ole Miss Rebels. It's going to be interesting to see what Ole Miss does this year. Last year LSU caught them at a perfect time where they went 7 straight games without having a bye. That was the longest, team that went without a bye, and then they looked tired, and LSU beat them at Tiger Stadium. So now we go to Ole Miss, and we've been going back and forth. Hadn't been winning at Ole Miss lately, so we'll see what happens with that. Then South Carolina comes to town, and I think South Carolina's going to take a drop down this year. I really don't think they're going to be as good as last year. It seems like that's the case every other year they're good. I think they'll go down this year, even they'll be looking for revenge in that game against LSU at Tiger Stadium. LSU goes to Vanderbilt in a brand-new stadium, renovated stadium at Vanderbilt, so it ought to be interesting with that. Remember last time, Jonathan, they went, the beer they drank the beer dry.
Drank all the beer.
And the beer was gone. So they go to Vanderbilt. Then they host Texas A&M, and this is kind of crazy that they're not hosting Texas A&M towards the end of the season. Of course, that's not the big game anymore with LSU at the end. It's Oklahoma. I don't know how long that's going to last. We'll see. But LSU will host Texas A&M on October 25th. They get that bye week, and then as they play Alabama at Tuscaloosa. This will make or break year for Alabama and DeBoer. Like you just said with Kelly, Alabama fans are even worse than LSU fans as far as productivity goes and pressure goes. If DeBoer has a season that's a little down from like last year, they could be packing his bags for him. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Arkansas will be the worst team, near the worst team in the SEC this year. I don't even know why they kept that coaching staff. Then they'll host Western Kentucky, which is hard to do, Jonathan, having a non-conference game that late in the season. But it seems like these SEC teams are finding those teams because those teams like Western Kentucky are in the midst of their conference schedule and trying to get first place and win their conference. And then the last game of the year, Oklahoma. And it looks like LSU and Oklahoma will be that last season. First it was Arkansas, then it was Texas A&M. Now it looks like it will be Oklahoma as that last game of the year for LSU. I don't know if they're going to permanently stay on the schedule. That hadn't been decided yet. Jonathan, are you shocked that the SEC, those guys, what are they doing in Birmingham? And I know now there's word coming in that the Big Ten and the SEC are about to form a massive league and have guaranteed 4 teams in each conference in the playoffs. That makes up your 8 teams, and then add 4 more teams. The other half would be 8 other teams from the ACC, the Big 12, the Pac-12, which is coming back to, and stuff like that. And then maybe, one of those like Boise State or what have you. But it looks like that this is not unsettled. This is really the dust is still settling. Is not even settled yet at all, period. And not only that, commission came back this last week and said, yes, we do need to do reseedings as far as the playoffs go. We need to restructure that and find out what is that thing. What is your thoughts of college football right now?
I don't think they care about rivalries anymore, Chris.
No.
I don't think they care about that at all.
No.
I think they want to make as much money as possible. They're doing a great job of doing that. They're gangbusters in making money. They know how to make money. They've spread out the transfer portals, the open windows, the coaching. It's all year round at this point, Chris, and it's no longer amateur sports. These guys are being played. I don't really have a problem with the NIL right now because I know everybody believes it has to get fixed. I mean, we didn't know how it was going to go. Kind of jumped in with both feet into the deep end. But you got to have a cap or some situation where it figures, what players are worth in the free market. They do it in the pros. They can absolutely figure it out for college football. Look, outside of getting rid of the old traditional rivalries, I kind of like the direction that college football is going with the playoff, get more teams involved, spread out the bowl sites, the ones that are really important. Lose some of the non-important bowls, in my opinion.
Yes.
You don't have to go to a bowl if you win 7 games. Raise the bar a little bit. But the eyes on the game, the impact in the communities, the tradition, all of that is just growing for college football. So really giving these young players a huge opportunity to get their name, their face out in the public. So if they don't go play pro football, they actually have something to fall back on, some connections, some way to make money for their families in the future. So yeah, it's just getting bigger and brighter and more expensive, but there's going to have to be a cap on NIL. That's going to be the biggest hurdle to overcome the next few years. But I like the playoff situation. I think it's going to only get better. And LSU, I mean, if you're not a fan of LSU football or LSU sports in general, you're sleeping under a rock. I mean, this program has been good across the board in all sports for the last 4 years, really building a brand of superstars at the next level. So I'm enjoying it, Chris, and I'm enjoying talking about it right here with you on Talking Sports with Chris Powers.
Yeah, there you go. And, I agree with what Nick Saban says, some of what Nick Saban says, that basically that the play, and I agree with what he says in the extent that the playoffs in the first round should not be at some home sites, like Boise State. Where in the hell would LSU fans go if they had to go to Boise State for the first week of the season? Where in the hell would they go hotel room-wise? I mean, later on we'll talk about the NFL draft coming up. It's going to be in Green Bay. Green Bay's smaller than Baton Rouge. Green Bay is a small city. And you have to be able to be a host of a big event like that, you have to have hotels, restaurants, things to do. And Boise State doesn't have anything to do. Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana, what the hell would you do there? So Nick Saban says the first round needs to be all bowl games. That's a possibility down the line as well. The only problem is when it comes to the average fan, because the average fan would have to pay almost, $5,000 per trip? That's a lot of money, man. That is a lot of money. And I don't think that these average fans want to pay that. So I kind of agree with him on that. I also agree with the schedule. The strength of schedule needs to be more as a factor. It has to be a factor in that big time, period. I agree with him on that. And a couple of other things he said. And one thing, he didn't say this, but the Penn State coach said this, that Notre Dame needs to be in a conference. And if they're not, you don't make the playoffs. Have a great season, 12 games in. You don't make the playoffs. Now at USC, it looks like they're going to cancel that series with Notre Dame. So Notre Dame, to me, has to be able to be in a conference and play 9 games like everybody else. And I know the SEC right now is 8, but word is the Big Ten and the SEC are about to come to an agreement to where both conferences have to play 9 conference games, which means you only have 3 non-conference games, which means your strength of schedule will be a little bit better. And that's something that Notre Dame doesn't have to worry about. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen in our lifetime. Notre Dame is like the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl does everything the way they want to do it. They don't care what everybody else thinks. Like they want it January 1st at 4:30, the Rose Bowl. They don't want to move. And the ESPN has kind of warned them already that there may be one time we may have to put you on December the 30th or 31st, and they don't want that. They don't want that at all. If you don't want that, then be on the CBN network or wherever network it is. Go to Fox and what have you, because this is the playoffs and you're messing everything up. Because the poor Sugar Bowl, as we mentioned before here, the Sugar Bowl, they have no pregame show. It's right when they're starting to kick the ball off. And then sometimes you'll see a bottom ticker if it goes into overtime. The Sugar Bowl's now on ESPN Plus or whatever. Get the hell out of there. And if I'm on the road or doing a game or something, I want to record the game, I can't record the game because it's on ESPN Plus. It's ridiculous. And some of the things that need to be done, I think people with some cojones need to step up and be the commissioner. Just like Kennedy talked about the commissioner currently of the NCAA. Go to Amazon and order a spine, because that's what you need. You need a spine. You need to change some rules, be strict about it. And like I said, we can talk about Goodell all we want to, but at least he keeps a structure, and he's not afraid to get out of that, to us keeping that structure, no matter what the situation is. And I agree with that. So I think we need a commissioner that's got some cojones and that can that can make sure that there's rules that set in. But the only problem I've got with that, Jonathan, is that we say that there needs to be more structure in NCAA, but now there are lawsuits that came in and overturned this and that and overturned this and that. So the lawsuits are still a big factor in all of college sports right now.
Yeah, and Chris, obviously everybody's looking at Nick Saban to be a commissioner of college football. I don't think it should be a single one-man job, because what happens when Nick Saban retires or passes away? Like, who's going to take that mantle next? Who can the general public trust enough to be in charge of this, huge business of college football. I think it needs to be a board of folks that understand the game, understand where it's headed, understand the young person who's investing in going to these games. Yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, there's so much money to follow the teams and go stay in a hotel and get tickets and then food and drink and everything else. I completely agree that Nick Saban has to be involved. Like, this guy gave his life to the game. Nobody can point to a better coach than Nick Saban. He understands both sides of now broadcast and coaching the game. But yeah, I don't think it should be a one-man, Roger Goodell, the grand poobah, because everybody's going to complain about that one guy having allegiances to one team or a conference. Just make it a board. Get Pat McAfee involved. He obviously understands young people and how to market to them. Get Kirk Herbstreit involved. Get Nick Saban involved. And let's just get brains that understand the game and just come up with a simple, logical plan of how to move forward.
Yeah, I'm laughing at you because I said – I broke it down last year for bowl games, and I said $300 to eat, and Jonathan's like, well, Chris, I don't know about you, but I like libations, man.
$300. Maybe that on lunch.
Yeah, because I go to New Orleans, and there's a nice fancy restaurant there on the boulevard. There's Jonathan and his wife, his beautiful wife, having dinner, and they're getting all this nice stuff. They got the most expensive bottle of wine. This guy, Marty, he doesn't live like you and me, man. This guy.
Hey, you can't take it with you when you go, Chris.
That's right. That's right. All right, we turn our attention to NFL when we come back, as we'll talk about important dates, where the Saints stack up, and a whole lot more as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, Jonathan in the house, Marty's in the house, right here. We'll be back in just a moment right here on Talkin' Sports with me, Chris Powers, on Pelican Sports TV.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger today.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats, the flavor says it all.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs, because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Talking sports with me, Chris Powers, right here as we're talking now NFL. Important dates coming up, February 27th through March the 3rd, the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Now, some of the officials are there in Indianapolis as we speak. Some players have gotten there as well. You're going to start seeing a lot of that, taking place in about 2 days. We're taping this on a Tuesday, on February 27th, 2 days from now, on Thursday, is when players begin competing and trying out. There's some players that are not going to do it at all. But 8 players from LSU are going to Indianapolis. A lot on the offensive line. Our offensive line is gone. Will Campbell is gone, Emory Jones, Garrett Dillinger, and Miles Frazier. All of that offensive line, if you want to count Mason Taylor at the tight end spot, which he is on the offensive line as the 6th offensive lineman, you can count that as well. So unbelievable. But all those guys are gone to Indianapolis for the combine. On defense is defensive lineman Braden Swinson, Savion Jones, quarterback Zy Alexander. They'll be the only 3 on defense. So that's who's all going. 5 on offense, 3 on defense, going to the combine over in Indianapolis. March 4th, franchise tags for teams begin, and on March so that's basically, and the Saints don't have any team, any player that's going to be franchise tagged. They can't afford it for number one, and number two, there's no big massive superstar on this team with contract problems that will be looking for that. Now, March 10th through 12th, it's unrestricted free agent negotiations begin. The Saints have 19 total unrestricted free agents. Not a lot of there's some big names like defensive end Chase Young. As I told you last week, I'd love for Chase Young to stay. He's so big, he fits the part. However, he has just been a bust, let's face it. He hadn't done anything as far as major sacks or major tackles go or anything like that at Washington, San Francisco, or New Orleans. So I do not think he's going to be back in New Orleans. I think he's going to want a bigger contract. I don't think he'll get the max contract that he can get, but I do think he'll get a new contract at another team. He enjoyed his time in New Orleans, but I do think that he'll be gone from the Saints after just 1 year. Paulson Adebo, I know he's a lot in the cornerback spot. I know he's flagged a lot of penalties, but he's also a pretty good cornerback. I'd want to try to maybe keep him because I think you can work with him. I don't want to lose Paulson Adebo. All of the rest are, we can. If we lose him, it's not going to be the end of the world. Wide receiver Marquise Valdez-Scantling, he's also an unrestricted free agent. He's not a perennial deep threat, but he's a good deep threat at some plays, like maybe one drive, once every drive or what have you. A couple of offensive linemen that I don't want to lose because they're utility offensive linemen, and Lucas Patrick and Landon Young. Those two guys, when you can have a guy that can play center, offensive tackle, or offensive guard, the 3 positions there, you want to keep that guy. If we lose him, okay, we'll go out and get somebody else. But those 2 guys are going to be unrestricted free agents. Also, Will Harris at the safety spot. I kind of would want to keep him as well. Juwan Johnson, tight end spot, I think he's gone. Word is he's already talked. He's ready to go to Denver. All ready to go for Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. To me, I don't know about you, Jonathan, but to me, Juwan Johnson is one of those inconsistent tight ends. I mean, wide open, drops a pass, or catches the most unbelievable, unrealistic catch, but
Right.
He catches the ball. He's too inconsistent. I don't care if we lose Juwan Johnson or not.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. It's a shame. I thought Juwan Johnson had a really bright future at that tight end spot when he transferred from the wide receiver. He has the build for it, but as you mentioned, it's just a consistency. Drops way too many passes, not securing the football after he does make the catch, and then to pull out a one-handed catch in between 3 people in the end zone. So, yeah, the flashes of talent have always been there, but the consistency has just been lacking for quite a number of years for the Saints, especially at that tight end position. Another guy we haven't talked about yet, what's going to happen with Taysom Hill? A guy working back from injury. He's been a main key piece of the Saints offense for now almost 10 years. Saints fans absolutely love him. They want to see him back in the black and gold, but how much gas does he have left in the tank? Says I think 1 year left on the contract. He has other suitors, especially out there in Denver. So to me, I think this team has to go into rebuild mode like yesterday. Trade anything you possibly can to get some value back, to get younger players in the building. Thank you, Taysom Hill, for your service. We truly appreciated everything you did for the city and for the Saints. But, yeah, it might be time to part ways with a lot of these guys who have played a lot of football in black and gold.
Yeah, and he's counts $17 million under the salary cap this year. $17 million. I agree. I'd hate to see Taysom Hill go, but he's going to be around 36, I think, when the season – sometime in the middle of the season, he'll be 36 years old. Also, another guy's unrestricted free agent, Willie Gay Jr. Started out great. Preseason looked great. Everything else looked great. He was supposed to be at that linebacker spot, but at the same time, he got injured a lot. Didn't even get to play against the Kansas City Chiefs, his former team. So, again, those are unrestricted free agents. March 12th is when they began to signing. That's only 2 weeks away. So that's when they'll begin signing with other teams. April the 7th, clubs that hire new head coaches will begin workout programs, and that includes the New Orleans Saints. That's April the 7th. NFL draft, as I mentioned, is in Green Bay, for God's sakes. April 24th through 26th. I don't know if they're going to do it at Lambeau Jonathan, I don't know if you've ever been. I know I've never been to Green Bay, but I've had friends that have been, and I've heard NFL players that talk about it. There's no massive airport in Green Bay. You have to drive basically from Milwaukee. It's nothing in Green Bay. Put it this way. If Green Bay today was trying to get an NFL football team, they would not even come close to getting it.
Yeah.
The only way they got it, and they'll never lose it, is because of the historic value of Green Bay. I think New Orleans is in that stack, too. I don't think they're as historic as, obviously, Green Bay, but I think that the NFL would not want New Orleans to lose New Orleans Saints. I really don't. But Green Bay, it's going to be in Green Bay, April 24th through 26th. Rookie minicamp begins May 2nd through 5th. The NFL schedule around May 12th. Now, we already know the opponents for the Saints, and, it's one of those opponents. Every year opponents are announced and what have you. But, Jonathan, I don't know. Are you kind of excited about this offseason with the Saints so far?
Chris, in the early stages of the offseason, I am excited. There's reason to be excited. There's a new face in town in Kellen Moore, a guy who's very young, going to bring innovation. Of course, he signed a lot of coaches from that Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff that just obviously won the Super Bowl. So if you're going to poach coaches from another team, it's good to get the best team's coaches. And Doug Nussmeier comes in to be the OC. Of course, you have Staley, who used to be a head coach of the Chargers, now going to be your DC. So quality head coaches that had quality jobs now leaving their foreign positions to come work under Kellen Moore. So lots of reason to be excited. Of course, I look at the mock drafts, Chris, and every single mock draft I have either has LSU's Will Campbell coming to the Saints or Mason Taylor coming to the Saints. So, there's lots of reasons to be encouraged. There's new blood. There's a new feel to the franchise. The older players, of course, they're excited to have a new young head coaches to bring new energy to the building. And these young guys are excited for the offensive innovation that they've seen on the field these past 3 seasons from Kellen Moore. Got to knock it out in the draft. I don't think the Saints are done yet trading their pieces and parts, trying to get more draft equity this season and next. Because, of course, in the 26th draft class is going to be loaded with quarterbacks, including one from LSU. So, I am excited so far, Chris, but it's still a long way to go for the New Orleans Saints.
No question. Home opponents are going to be Atlanta, Carolina, and Tampa Bay. We know that. Arizona is coming to New Orleans. San Francisco is coming to New Orleans as well. It's been a while since San Francisco's been in New Orleans. I think the last time they were was when they hurt Drew Brees. Remember they separated his shoulder? I was at that game, and that was a while ago. New England Patriots are coming in. And how about the 2 New York teams coming in? Both New York teams are New Jersey teams. New York Jets and New York Giants are coming in to the Caesars Superdome. Road games against Atlanta, Carolina, and Tampa Bay. We go to Buffalo. Now, when will that be? Will it be at the December or November? Or will it be early on in the season? Now, remember last time the Saints went to Buffalo? Sean Payton was head coach, and McDermott was the head coach of the Bills, and they killed the Bills. They dominated. They ran the ball down their throat and dominated that game. But that was a few years ago. Chicago Bears would go to Chicago. We go to the Rams this year. We go to Miami this year. Hadn't been to Miami in a while. Go to Seattle. I remember the boom, the sonic boom.
Yeah.
And then the Legion of what was it? The Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
And then Tennessee Titans. We'll go to Tennessee. It seems like we've gone to Tennessee every time. We haven't had the Titans in Superdome, I feel, in a long time at least. Maybe I haven't. I'm just thinking about that. But that's the way that goes. Those are the Saints' opponents. Now, June 1st is when the cut date for players' relief on the salary cap. That means if they're going to get rid of a Derek Carr, they're going to release Cam Jordan, they'll get some relief if they do it before June 1st. If they do it after June 1st, they get no cap relief. So it'll be before June 1st when they start cutting players. Also, July 21st is when you can start having training camp, some for the Hall of Fame game, and then some, of course, with later on that don't play in the Hall of Fame game. But look for this. I'm telling you, hear me this, Jonathan. On this date, which is February 25th, the Saints will be in the Hall of Fame game next year. Watch what I'm telling you. That's when Drew Brees is eligible for the Hall of Fame next year. I'd love to go, but there'll be so many fans there that I don't know if you'll be able to enjoy the Hall of Fame and going through the museum. That's on my bucket list to go to the Hall of Fame. I'd like in a way to go, though, when Drew Brees is going to be there because he's going to be there next year. He's going to be a first-round ballot. And look for the Saints to be in the Hall of Fame game next year.
Yeah, and Chris, funny you mentioned Drew Brees because just on the top of my head, the last time the Saints had to face the Bills, the Jets, and the Giants and go to Miami, I believe was 2009. that season ended up pretty well for the Black and Gold. Finished the Super Bowl in Miami, beating the Indianapolis Colts, of course. You saw a lot of the coverage from this past Super Bowl. Of course, it was in New Orleans, and the ambush onside kick. Of course, they took that away completely. There are no more surprise onside kicks. You have to let the team know you're about to do it. So one of the most memorable Super Bowl experiences ever. One of the best games that I've witnessed in a Super Bowl. And, Chris, I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but you beat New York, then you travel to Miami, beat the Dolphins. I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl, man.
No question with that. I remember that Miami Dolphin game. They had to come back from behind to win.
Drew Brees dunked.
And Drew Brees had to jump over the top for the touchdown. And remember the flying that Reggie Bush did? Yeah, Reggie went 1 foot inbounds and it seems like he glided all the way to the pylon, and they called it a touchdown. It was absolutely unbelievable. That was a magical season, no question about that. But I remember that season. It was great, no question with that. So that's a couple of the things we have to look for as far as dates for the National Football League. When we come back, we're talking college baseball. We'll do that when we return as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, Jonathan in the house, Marty's in the house. Back in a moment right here on Pelican Sports TV.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreysstoneCountryClub.com.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats. The flavor says it all.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
All right, welcome back, everybody. College baseball in full swing, just getting it going. LSU is at 7-1, ranked number 2 in one poll, number 3 in another poll this week. They're playing in Dallas. They're going to play at the Globe Life Stadium. Beautiful new stadium, not the old one, the new one that is the retractable roof. Because the old one, like I said, I did a football game. There's a couple of football games, or maybe 3. And I wondered, that stadium was nice. I even watched the Texas Rangers game in there. Why did they replace that stadium? Well, I found out why. Because of the heat. It is so hot at that. And we were in the fall. You imagine being in the summer watching a game at Globe Life Old Stadium and watching that? It was beautiful, and it was a nice new stadium and what have you. But that stadium didn't last. It's still up as they have soccer games in there and a few other things. But it is a hot, hot stadium. That sun just kills you, bears down on you, and kills you there. But they'll be in the new Globe Life Stadium park, which is going to be Dallas Baptist starting off tomorrow. They're number 18 in the nation. That's the toughest game they're going to play. Remember, I don't think they've made the College World Series yet, but they've been in the NCAA tournament for the last few years, and they're a team that goes deep in the NCAA tournament. They play K-State, Nebraska, and Sam Houston this weekend, and that's their first road games. LSU will be in their first road games of the year. They're 7-1, all 7-1 games. All 8 games they played so far have all been at home. They're 37th in batting average, batting at 320. They're tied for 147th in home runs. They're tied for 32nd in doubles, tied for 81st in triples, and their base percentage is number 17 in the nation on their on-base percentage. So it tells me with those stats right there, Jonathan, is that this is not a home-running hitting team, and we don't have a Tommy White this year, but what this does is, to me, they're getting on base. They're winning. They're 7-1, and they're ranked number 2. But right now, they're not getting any extra base hits right now.
Yeah, and Chris, I think that batting average, it's kind of skewed early in the season. Of course, that second game of the series against Omaha, they didn't get a hit until the 8th inning when Ashton Larson finally broke the seal, and then LSU tried to make a furious comeback, ended up dropping that game 5-4. But yeah, I do believe this team, will hit a lot of home runs this season. Jared Jones only has one so far, I believe, on the year. He struggled a little bit, especially with guys in scoring position. In that second game against Omaha, LSU left the bases loaded in the first 2 innings. Couldn't scratch a hit, as I mentioned, until the 8th inning. So, the batting averages, they kind of dip and balloon pretty good early in the season, but it'll all even out.
I think so,
guys
too.
like Steven Mime will have no problem. Larson, Brown, Jones, you go through the numbers, they're all going to have double-digit home runs. So it'll come. It just takes a little bit of time. LSU is going to be in a lot of games with this pitching staff. They have absolutely dominant bullpen. So, yeah, I look forward to a very exciting year LSU baseball, and I do believe the hitting will come around. Way too much talent to keep this team off the scoreboard.
Yeah, I agree. They're tied for 31st in scoring, but I think they will eventually come around. But I'll tell you this, they got a tough SEC because the top 4 teams in the poll, in the D1 poll, are all from the SEC.
Right.
All 4 of them. That's crazy. 6 out of the top 10 are from the SEC, and 11 of the top 25 are from the SEC. SEC play begins on March 13th. LSU will start on the 14th against Missouri. That Thursday game where they have a TV game, we won't be there on that 13th. LSU won't play on the 13th, but they'll play Missouri on the 14th for that opening weekend of SEC play. And it's Jackson. Coach Jackson's coming back in. He's the former Southern coach, now at Missouri. And I'll tell you, I've talked to him several times, went to dinner with him several times, parties with him and all that stuff. That guy is so freaking smart. Worked for Major League Baseball for a long time. That guy is super, super smart, and I think he'll turn Missouri around eventually. I really do. And I think he's just going to be a great coach, and it's going to be interesting. Like I said, he reminds me of talking to Rick Pitino and Coach Saban. They were so smart when you first talked to them or heard them that I was like, wow. When I first got an opportunity to interview Rick Pitino, it was a post-game with LSU Kentucky. Nobody wanted to interview him. I was the only one talking to him because everybody was scared of him. I'm not going to be scared of that little guy. And then also Saban, so smart. I'll never, as long as I live, unless I have Alzheimer's, and God bless, I hope I don't, like my grandfather. I'll always remember the first question I asked Nick Saban: why do you put special teams? Why do you put your number one wide receiver, number one running back, or what have you on special teams? And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name is Chris." Chris, hence the name, special teams. And he just talked about it so easy and so layman's terms that you knew that this guy's going to be successful. This guy's going to be unbelievable. And he was. And it's just incredible. But the SEC back to baseball is loaded. Southern starts off the season in their first 7 games at 3-4, and unlike LSU, they've been playing all their games on the road. They played Missouri, got beat by Missouri pretty good in Florida this past weekend. Now they're going to be finally back at home. Their first game this week against Dillard. In fact, I think it's tonight. St. Peter's will be this weekend at the ballpark over at Southern. Southern is 36th in batting average at .319. That's actually better than LSU a little bit. They're tied for 30 in the triples, but they're tied for 252nd on fielding percentage. A lot of errors, in the game. You cannot have that. 252nd? That's a lot of errors on your baseball team. And your fielding percentage is just as important as anything else. So you better get that down right, because that would be tough to overcome that. But Southern, again, just getting started. They're 3-4. Their SWAC tournament begins. Their SWAC season starts also in the month of March, and they've got some pretty good games they'll be having. Not a lot of home games this year in the SWAC. There'll be a lot of road games in the SWAC this year. All right, when we come back, we're talking some other things, including we'll speak something with Southern. We lost a great one. Also, basketball, we'll talk about that. And a whole lot more that's coming up right here as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers. Jonathan is in the house. Marty's in the house. Back after this time out right here on Pelican Sports TV.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats, the flavor says it all.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Chris Powers. We're talking sports right here. We've seen 5 times a week on Tuesdays at 11 a.m., of course, on Cox Cable. 11 a.m. on Thursday and 7 p.m. also on that Thursday, Friday at 9 p.m. and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Seen in almost 2 million households, 89 of the metro New Orleans area still has Cox Cable, almost 400,000 in Baton Rouge and 140,000 in the Lafayette area. A couple things to talk about as we come to the last 10 minutes. A great one at Southern has passed away. Safeties coach Sean Wallace has died. A great player for Southern in the 90s. This guy was unbelievable to meet him, to talk to him, and what have you. His presence will always be seen at Southern. He was the Bayou Classic MVP in 1993. That was Pete Richardson's first year. They went on to win the national championship. They went on to win the SWAC championship as well, and he was named the MVP. He was 52 years old when he passed away. Again, honorary coach for the first season, for last season at Bayou Classic, not this past season, but the season before that. Went to the NFL for 1 year and came back and was a ministries guy. Every time I got to hang around him, he was super nice. I've had him on my show on Southern before. I've talked to him about him and his family and what have you. He was just a great guy. As soon as he found out he had pancreatic cancer, he said, I'm going to fight this and I'm going to win. Unfortunately, pancreatic cancer is a cancer that just doesn't relinquish at all. It doesn't relinquish you, and it sucks. His service will be at the F.G. Clark Activity Center from 10 a.m. until noon on Friday. Our thoughts and prayers go to his family, all of his friends. He had a lot of friends, a lot of family, and that's going to be one that was going to be a sad day. That is on Friday. All of our thoughts and prayers go to Sean Wallace. Coach, we'll never forget you, buddy. And I'm going to miss the trips that we took on the road, all that stuff. We're going to miss you, brother. And it's just sad to see this guy go. Southern's men's basketball completes the sweep of Grambling State. The men with a big win and 1 game away from a share of the regular season title and 2 games away from the outright title. And this could be, of course, shorter than that if Jackson State loses a game. Right now they have a 3-game lead with 4 games left for Jackson State with the 3 games out. Southern has 4 games remaining before they go to the tournament. They have, out of the 4 games, 2 road games and 2 home games. Thursday they'll be in Florida, and next Saturday, or this Saturday rather, they will be in Florida again. And then the next Thursday, which I believe is the 6th and the 8th, we'll have 2 games on Thursday, men and women, and then 2 games on Saturday, men and women again, as we wrap the season up with the Alabama two-step. But that'll be Southern's got right there, buddy. They're right there with it. And they beat Grambling, a very tough the game that was at Southern. Remember that, Marty? It was controversy at the end where they had 3 technical fouls and 1 foul with 0.8 of a second left. And Southern goes on to win that game by 8 because of the free throws they took. But they were tied as Grambling hit the big tying 3-point shot right in front of the Grambling coaching bench. And then Southern takes it down to the end of the floor, go for a layup. The foul was called with 0.8 of a second, and you could see the foul happen. But the coaches thought, hey, it's at the end of the game, let it go. Well, if you want the referees to be referees, basically all the way through the rest, the 39 minutes of the game, you can't be on the last minute and say, no, forget the fouls. No, it was a foul. And he got hard fouled as he was going up for that layup for the game-winning shot. And then the Grambling coach didn't like it. The Grambling assistant coach got a technical foul on him as well. 2 technical fouls means the head coach got to go. And then the player that caused the foul, the guy hit the game-winning shot, he got a technical foul too. I've never seen where 3 technical fouls happen in 0.8 of a second. But Southern goes on and they beat Grambling State at Grambling. That's a hard place to win. That was huge, big win for Southern. Also, the Southern women's basketball team also took the sweep of Grambling. They beat Grambling at Grambling as well, and they beat them pretty good too. They're only half a game out of second place, and it's because Texas Southern's played 1 more game than us. But when that all settles down, Southern will go back on top because Southern beat them. They split with Texas Southern this year, but they beat them by 10, while Texas Southern beat us by 5 over in Houston. So Southern women are in a good position. So the Southern men and women, with 4 games left, basically 2 weeks left, have an opportunity to be the number 1 seed in both sides. So that'll be huge. And I'll be going to Atlanta in a couple of weeks. LSU women had a big comeback against Kentucky. They were down by as many as 16 in the first half and down by 12 at halftime. But they came back and they did a great job. Kim Mulkey wins her 750th game of her career. The Lady Tigers are 27-2 on the year. Last week of the regular season, Marty, Jonathan, can you believe that? The last week of the regular season?
Yeah, no, it went super fast, Chris, super fast.
Unbelievable. They'll be again in South Carolina, the SEC tournament coming up. And with that victory over Kentucky, it was a good road win, and it was against a ranked team. LSU assures themselves basically the number 3 spot, which means they'll get a double bye in the first round of the tournament. And I was kind of shocked with that. I've never watched a women's basketball game in Kentucky. So you mean to tell me they only use Rupp Arena for men's basketball?
Right.
Isn't that something?
Right.
Unbelievable. Rupp Arena is only used for men's basketball. I'm assuming they do volleyball at this Memorial Coliseum they were playing as there as well. And gymnastics may be the same thing. I don't know. But Rupp Arena only used for one sport? You got to be kidding. And Rupp Arena, I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a big arena. It's a huge arena. All right, the LSU men's team played Florida tough. They led most of the way, and they led at halftime. But then by the middle ways of the second, not really middle ways, kind of 3/4 of the middle way, that's when Florida took over, and they won by 14 points. They'll host Tennessee as we're taping this tonight. They host Tennessee tonight at 8 p.m. at the PMAC. Tennessee also one of the best teams in college basketball right now. So we'll see what happens with that. They have 4 games left as well. LSU has 4 games. Southern has 4 games left. So, Jonathan, do you remember the last time we made the NCAA tournament? I had to look it up.
No.
2021.
Wow.
I had to look it up. It seems like forever ago. Right. But I do remember coming back from a tournament or what have you, listening to Chris Blair on the radio as they were in the NCAA tournament. Remember when Will Wade was suspended and all that stuff and fired?
Right.
So Will Wade never coached in the NCAA tournament with LSU.
Right.
He was suspended from one and fired on the other one. So anyway, 2021 was the last time they won the NCAA tournament. 2019 is the last time they won the SEC regular season tournament title. Regular season title. Now,
right.
Tournament title, they've only had 1 tournament title in LSU history. That shocked me. 1980.
Wow.
The only year they won the SEC tournament championship and got the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. Remember, they came close against Kentucky in that year, 86. They came close. Kentucky won that game, but then when LSU played them in the Elite Eight, LSU won and went to the Final Four. That's when Ricky Blanton did his thing like that. Great no-look pass from Don Redden, and Ricky Blanton went down the field doing that right there down the court. Unbelievable. So LSU basketball has just been so out of it for so long. I mean, I had to look that up to find out when that was. The Vikings general manager has come out. He wants to ban the tush push. Come on, play the game. I know Philadelphia makes it look easy. Buffalo couldn't do it. There's other teams that can't do it, but if one team can do it, let it go. And Goodell has talked about maybe banning this. I think it's absolutely a mistake. If you can't stop it, that's your fault. I think, Jonathan, I don't know about you, I think the tush push should stay. We've done that for years in football. When I played football, we did it. It's been going on for years. It's just called something different. But the tush push, the Vikings general manager said, I want that banned.
Yeah, cry me a river. If you can't stop it, I mean, just go cry about it. If you're going to get nitpick on where the backfield lines up, okay, maybe you have an argument of who's on the line, who's off the line. But as long as the Philadelphia Eagles are covering up receivers and they have the right setup, how could you ban a running play by the quarterback in the NFL? It just doesn't make sense. Like you mentioned, Philadelphia is good at it, but they're like one of 3 teams that might be guaranteed to get 2 yards when they try to do a tush push. So that's not an overwhelming number. A lot of these offenses have not figured it out, and it's up to the defenses to stop it.
That's exactly right. And can you smell what The Rock is cooking? WrestleMania 42, The Rock announced that it's coming back to New Orleans for the 3rd time. Now, I had to look and see what other cities that have hosted WrestleMania 3 times. New Jersey has, but New York, I think, maybe 2. But New Orleans, I think, is the only city that's had it 3 times. That's huge. And The Rock talked about at the press conference, talked about how the Super Bowl really pushed him to make the final step. Now, this year's WrestleMania will be in Vegas, but they're already excited about WrestleMania 42 being in New Orleans because New Orleans did a great job with WrestleMania 30. I think they had 34, and now they're going to have 42. That's impressive. That WrestleMania, I'm not a wrestling guy. I don't watch wrestling anymore.
Shoot.
But I'll tell you this, that is huge. That's a big economic impact. And last time we had WrestleMania, they had 1 day. Now WrestleMania is 2 days.
Right, yeah.
That's going to be huge, man. That's going to be big. Marty, you watch wrestling a lot? Sometimes? Yeah. I loved Stone Cold. I think he did unbelievable, and Hulk Hogan back before that. I was a huge wrestling guy. Back in the old Mid-South days, my favorite wrestler used to be Wrestling 2. They wear the white mask with the black stripe around. I love Wrestling 2. That was one of my favorite guys. But WrestleMania 42. So, Jonathan, I'm telling you this. Look for this to happen now. Look for the Final Four to announce that they're coming back because the Super Bowl was so successful. I think that you're going to get the Final Four coming back for college football.
Yep.
College basketball. It looks like college football is going to be announced maybe in the next few months, because the negotiations right now, that the college football national championship in 2028 will return to the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, and also hopefully the women's Final Four coming back soon. Well, that'll do it for Talking Sports with me, Chris Powers. Thanks to Jonathan and always and everything you do. Marty, and thank you for the cold drinks today. That's great. We'll see you next week right here on Talking Sports with me, Chris Powers.
Rocks and fires. Tommy White with it. Johnson heads to the